I have no dispute, and I don't question the worthiness of this bill and what it's trying to accomplish. I'm just really concerned about repaying the bonds out of the general fund. I appreciate the Pro Tem's comments on how to fit it in and how to make sure we pay for it, and using the credit card example. But I also want to rebut what you just stated about tax credits. I think I voted against almost all of them in this committee.
You'd be the exception.
Yeah, I even voted against the earned income tax credit. How's that for being a mean, nasty guy? But I'm concerned. I am really concerned about the spending of this state and what's going to happen in the next year, 2, 3, 5. So I'm one of those glasses half empty people, and I apologize for the pessimism, but I was a supervisor and we had to lay off a significant chunk of our workforce. It was not a pleasant experience. So we just approved a $9 billion school bond, which is going to impact the general fund budget by $500 million a year that we have to account for. So if I use similar numbers, a $3 billion bond will be $167 million a year that we have to add to future budgets.
Well, let's make an assumption too. We go to the market with the whole $9 billion. You know, let's not make that assumption. My assumption will be we'll go in tranches.
Sure.
You know, so that obviously that impacts the general fund in different ways. I think what you're taking is you're taking the extreme example. If we take all what has been authorized by the voters constitutionally and go to the market, and whatever that deal we get back, and whoever handles and packages the deal, you know. And contingent on what our credit quality of our paper is with Moody's, Standard & Poor's, and Fitch, obviously, and the deal that we get. So I just want to just clarify the example and the numbers you're articulating are the most extreme example.
I'll even accede to that argument.
Okay.
Because we're talking about phasing things in over time, tranches, whatever we want to do with this debt, but we're looking at low-income housing, which is coming up on today's agenda, another $3 billion. We're looking at $4 billion of minimum wage increases to the budget. We're looking at $2.7 billion in wage increases to employees. We're looking at pension plan contributions. We don't even have those numbers yet that are going to start impacting the general fund in a rather dramatic way. So I'm not here to be negative. I'm just trying to say, this accountant is saying maybe we ought to wait, as opposed to, maybe we ought to see how the economy is doing and how our budget is going. Maybe, God forbid, President Trump is successful and the economy really blossoms and everything we predicted, you know, exceeded our expectations. Who knows? So I'll be opposed to the bond because I'm nervous. As an individual, as an accountant, as a legislator, and I have no arguments against its purpose and what it's trying to accomplish. And so
through the chair, I would say, you know, to Mr. Marlowe, I do appreciate your fiscal perspective. I do know that you were there, you know, in the middle of it when Orange County, you know, declared bankruptcy. And Orange County at the time was the poster child for the entire nation of how not to do things. And you were there right in the thick of it, and, you know, and you exercised a tremendous amount of leadership at the time too. And I appreciate, you know, your experience as a former county board supervisor, and before that, I believe the clerk or the treasurer of the county, you know, so you were in the thick of it. And I know it was a very traumatizing effect too, but also, you know, gave you a perspective that none of us have, you know, during the very difficult times and the vulnerabilities and exposure that Orange County put itself in. So I do appreciate very much your perspective. I know that, you know, on the natural, like you said, the lens and what you view it through is through the cup is, you know, half empty as opposed to half full. I think there is such a thing as good debt. This is the preliminary stage. You know, we have a GO bond on housing. We have a couple other things that we're dealing with. We want to do is we want to push it out. Ultimately, we'll have to engage with the governor himself. We know that he is also, you know, adverse to, you know, bond indebtedness. You know, it's hopeful that we can make a persuasive case, if you will, as to why this is necessary. You do have to invest if you will, if you want to create, jobs. I think that irrespective of what's happening in Washington, one thing that's important for us is that we need to really move forward strongly with economic, stimulus package that continues to create jobs. We don't know what's going to happen with our budget. You're absolutely right. We may go into a budget deficit based on cuts at the national level, where we may not have the financial wherewithal to backfill. But that being said, one thing that's very clear is we need to keep this economy growing. We need to keep pushing policies that put people to work. Democrats, Republicans, those are agnostic, altogether. And I do believe that there's such thing as good debt as well, too. And I know you do too, also too. So I appreciate your perspective very much, and we'll factor it in also too.
Thank you.